Okay, if we could, I'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. I appreciate everyone being here this evening. The first item on our agenda is to call our meeting to order and establish the fact that we have a forum of our board team. So all of our board team members are here except for Mr. Hernandez. So we do have a quorum. Our next item is our invocation. We're honored this evening to have Jeff Paget and his wife Amy as well from Harvest Baptist Church, and he's going to lead us in our invocation.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, we just thank you for the beautiful day you've given us. We thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. Lord, I pray that you would just give wisdom and direction to these board members as they look at all the issues before them. And Lord, I pray that you would be with them as they have to make difficult decisions during this year, this unprecedented time that we're living in, Lord. And I just pray that you would just give them grace as they try to make the right decisions for all of the students. Lord, we pray for safety for the teachers and the staff and the students in the schools, Lord, as we're facing the COVID virus, and I just pray that you would be with them. Please be with all the staff and those that help everything run behind the scenes. And Lord, we just pray that you would be with those that are in the hospitals helping and serving there. And I just pray, Lord, that you would just be with our city, be with our state, and Lord, be with our country. And we thank you for what you've done and what you're going to do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Pastor Paget. We appreciate y'all being here. Our next item, we're going to have some young students from Glenmore Elementary School. As they come forward, I'll introduce you to them. We have Catherine Laura. We have Raven Moore. And we have Damon Estrella. So as they gather up here, I'll ask everybody to stand and they'll lead us in our pledges. If any parents want to come up, y'all hang on, young ladies and gentlemen. Y'all come back up here. Hello. If y'all would like to come up and take a picture or do something while they're standing here, that would be awesome.
Hey, that's where I went to school. Glenmore. What? It survived you. Barely.
Thank y'all. What a great job. I always tell them that I'm not leading, they lead, and they did a really perfect job of making sure that everyone heard them. And so thanks for being here, and thanks for dragging your parents along with you. I'll read our script now before we get into any business of our district. Good evening and welcome. As the President of the Board of Trustees of the San Angelo Independent School District, I'd like to welcome all of you who are present at tonight's regular board meeting. I also welcome those of you who might be watching the tape of this meeting on our public access channel, Channel 4. We appreciate your interest in our students. All items that will be discussed at our meeting this evening have been posted as required by state law. Also, as you may be aware, our board meets a minimum of 2 times per month, and most, if not all, of our board items on our agenda this evening have been previously discussed at an earlier pre-agenda board workshop. As members of the San Angelo Independent School District's Board of Trustees, we're here to set goals, listen to reports from our superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, and personnel appointments, and to make policy for the school district. Please keep in mind that our meeting is a meeting of the Board of Trustees held in public and not a meeting of the public. However, with that in mind, we have an item on every one of our meeting agendas that allows anyone present who wishes to speak to our board team an opportunity to do so. I'll make certain that we give everyone an opportunity to speak on any item not listed on our agenda this evening. In addition, prior to taking any votes, I will ask audience members if they would like to make any comments. Anyone wishing to make comments on any agenda item should do their best to limit their comments to 5 minutes. In compliance with state law, these proceedings are recorded and will become a part of SAISD's permanent legal record. In order that our tape might adequately reflect the proceedings, I ask that you please refrain from talking while others might be speaking. I also ask, as I remind my fellow board team members, to please turn off or silence their cell phones at this particular time. Again, it's my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's meeting, and thank you for taking the time to join us here this evening. We appreciate your interest in the activities of our students and the business of our district. Oh, and one reminder, if anyone wishes to speak on an item not on our agenda this evening, don't feel like the board's not paying attention to you. We are, but we can't respond because it's not on our agenda. Some of you may be here to speak on the renaming of our middle school. That is on our agenda, so board members will be able to make comments during that time frame. That covers our script and any comments I wanted to make. We'll move forward with our recommendations, and we have Ms. Whitney Wood and Molly Johnson here going to help us. It looks like Ms. Wood's going to help us with our recognitions. Thank you, Whitney.
Thank you, Mr. Lehman. First, I just want to say thank you to our folks that are Zooming in. We are, trying to socially distance and take those necessary precautions as we are able to. So you'll see some of our recognitions are actually going to be by Zoom. So bear with us on that. So good evening, Mr. Lehman and distinguished members of the board. Tonight, we have a very special recognition honoring one of our exceptional community partners, the San Angelo Schools Foundation. The foundation and the dedicated foundation members collaborate with our district and our teachers to help our students reach their individual hopes and dreams by supporting and inspiring our teachers to create and pursue innovation and excellence in the classroom. The San Angelo Schools Foundation was established in 1986 with the goal to support innovative academic opportunities for children of San Angelo ISD. Each year, the foundation focuses efforts on their two major projects, grants to teachers and scholarships to students. As of this November, the Schools Foundation will have awarded a total of over $646,000 in grants to teachers and over $119,000 to scholarships to graduating seniors from Central and Lakeview. And this spirit of generosity and support of public education has continued despite the unique challenges of this school year. Some special projects made possible by Schools Foundation support in the past that you may recognize include STEM Camp, Osmo Interactive Game Systems for iPads, BAM, Books a Month Literacy Initiative, percussion instruments for special needs students, and Gaga Pits. The foundation will begin announcing the 2020 Grants to Teachers Award winners tomorrow, and we cannot wait to see what innovative projects our educators and teams will put these funds to this year to help our SISD students. This evening, we are honored to have some members of the foundation board connect with us virtually over Zoom. So Dr. Deathloff, board members, please join me in recognizing the foundation board members after I call out each of their names. Board members, I will call out your name, and if you are with us, please give us a wave over Zoom. We will mail each of you your certificate of appreciation and look forward to the days we can celebrate again in person. So I'm going to name our wonderful board members now. President-elect Liz Albert, Jennifer Biggs, Rochelle Boyd, Krista Bradley, Amy Burris, Treasurer Olivia Carrasco, Elizabeth Chambers, Davy David, Fundraiser Chair Amy Dugan, Treasurer-elect Amy Duncan, Jackie Evett, Javier Flores, President Carolee Galban, Marissa Gisecki, Katie George, Crispin Graves, Secretary Lauren Harper, Colleen Hartzell, Mackenzie Hollick, Courtney Mahaffey, Courtney Nagel, Renee Orr, Corey Stewart, Terry Thomason, Robin Trainer, and Executive Director Christine Coles. Please join me in giving the Schools Foundation Board a very appreciative round of applause on behalf of our board members, administration, and SISD. Thank y'all. Schools Foundation, we look forward to celebrating the Grants to Teachers Awards tomorrow, and thank you so much for all you do for our district and our students. So next, I'm going to go on to another very special recognition we have this evening, and that's an appreciation of and respect for our incredible servicemen and women who help keep our students, staff, and community safe and able to enjoy our many freedoms as Americans. We honor you in conjunction with Veterans Day last Wednesday. We begin with recognizing all of our SAISD employee veterans. We are so proud to have many honorable veterans in our ranks. What an inspiration our veterans are to our students. This evening, United States Army veteran and Lee Middle School principal Amy Lemaster and United States Air Force veterans and high school JROTC leaders, Chief Master Sergeant Prince and Major Esquel, join us to accept on behalf of our SAISD employee veterans. Thank you, SAISD employee veterans, and thank you, Ms. Lemaster, Chief Prince, and Chief Esquel. And they are with us on Zoom, so thank you so very much. And in conjunction with that, we next celebrate our Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps, JROTC, programs at Central High School and Lakeview High School. We extend deep gratitude to our program leaders for inspiring our servicemen and women of tomorrow. Both of our high school exceptional JROTC programs participated in the Veterans Day Parade to honor our veterans earlier this month. We have Chief Prince again accepting this recognition for Central JROTC and Major Esquel accepting for Lakeview JROTC. Thank you both again for your individual service to our country and working to build our students into leaders like you. So thank you. And finally, we would also like to honor our important partnership with Goodfellow Air Force Base and our SAISD military families. Our Goodfellow School Liaison Office program provides outreach, advocacy, and partnership that generates solutions to our military-connected students who face unique challenges. Thank you, Goodfellow, for our SAISD military families that sacrifice so much for our country and community. And thank you for all you do to support our students. Teresa Goodwin, our School Liaison Program Manager, is joining us this evening. She is here to accept our appreciation on behalf of our partners at Goodfellow, her liaison office, and our SAISD families. Thank you, Goodfellow and Teresa. And then at this time, we would like to share a short video. Oh, with Dr. Dethla. Sorry, I didn't know Charlene was here with the camera.
Thank you, Ms. Goodwin. Thank you so much.
Okay, at this time, we would like to share a short video that we shared on our social media pages last Wednesday on Veterans Day that is a tribute to our veterans and showing the many ways our schools honored our veterans last week. So then,
Really quick.
sorry.
No, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you. That's awesome. Thanks for putting that together.
Yeah, it's nice to see our bands doing that to honor our veterans. And then we have one last but not least, our final recognition of the evening is in congratulations of San Angelo ISD's Executive Director of Athletics, Rodney Chant, on the great honor of being named the 2020 Athletic Director of the Year by Texas High School Athletic Director Association. There is only one of these presented each year, so he is in very limited company. The award is presented annually by THSADA in recognition of the dedicated service, leadership, and special contributions of the honoree to their local, regional, and state levels of interscholastic athletic administration. We welcomed Coach Chant to lead our athletics department in July of this year and are so appreciative of the great work and leadership he has brought to our programs, even under these unique circumstances. San Angelo ISD is proud of Coach Chant and his dedication to our students, coaching staff, and athletic programs, especially during this unprecedented year. Dr. Deathloff, at this time, will you join me to recognize Coach Chant? If you will come up, we'll take one photo since Charlene's here to help us with that. Congratulations. So proud of you. And that concludes recognitions. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Rodney, for being here, and thanks for that recognition. When we found out that he was available for us to hire as our Executive Director of Athletics, it was an incredible opportunity for us to do that. So we appreciate his work, and both historically that won him that award. I think he's well known throughout the state, as evidenced by him receiving this award, but certainly he's done great work since he's been here, so thank you for that. And I have a Lakeview mask and a Central mask, but I'd love to have a mask that's got both. So if there's any of those laying around somewhere, I'd like to have one of those. I got a Lakeview mask and a Central mask when we did our drive-through graduations last year, but it'd be nice to have one with both schools on it, so I wouldn't offend anybody if I was on a certain side of town. That concludes our recognitions. Our next item our next item is our minutes. So do we have a motion to approve our minutes?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Dennell and a second from Mr. Gallegos to approve our October 13th, 2020 special finance and pre-agenda meeting, as well as our October 19th, 2020 regular board meeting. Are there any questions or comments from our board team? Any public comment? If not, all in favor of our motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed indicate by saying no. Our motion passes. Our next item I referred to earlier. This is an item reserved on our agenda for anyone wishing to make comments to our board team on items not on our agenda. So if anybody wishes to make comments to our board team on items not on our agenda, now would be a great time to do so. I don't really have anybody signed up. It looks like everybody that signed up is to speak on the renaming of Robert E. Lee Middle School. So we'll wait until that agenda item to receive comment there. I'll move to item 7, which is our report section of our board meeting. The first item is our student enrollment report from the 11th Monday of school. that's provided to the board team in our Friday facts each week. We're still down over 500 students compared to the same time last year. We've done a significant amount of work trying to find students and searching for students, and the next report is our first 6 weeks average daily attendance report. Generally, we have an average daily of attendance of about 96%, somewhere between 95 and 96%, especially during the first 6 weeks of school. This year it's at 92%. So as a district, we're down about 3% on our overall attendance. I looked through that with each individual's attendance zone. So we've got a number of elementary schools that are running in the 4 to 5% range. Some of those are in some of our most economically depressed areas. Others are not, but that's kind of a commonality in low attendance. And we're also, both of our high schools are below, are around 6% below. I think Central's at 6 and Lakeview's about 7% below where they were at the same time last year. So those are the reports. And I was going to get, during this time frame, I thought I'd ask Dr. Detloff to give, seems appropriate for us to give kind of an update, COVID update of what's going on in the district and the steps that the district's taking to deal with that in this unprecedented year. So, Dr. Detloff.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Lehman, members of the board. Really, my remarks this evening, I want to kind of at first tag on the attendance situation that we have in our school district. As many of you may remember last time, learning is at the pinnacle of what we do in SAISD, and we need kids in seats to make that happen. Statewide, we are a member of, there are 41 districts represented called the Texas School Alliance. We are probably the smallest member of the Texas School Alliance. The Texas School Alliance encompasses about 2.5 million students of total enrollment in the state of Texas. In the state of Texas, there's about 5.4 million students in the state of Texas enrolled in public schools. Across our Texas School Alliance school districts, those include Dallas, Houston, Cy-Fair, even in our West Texas region such as Midland, Abilene, Lubbock. Most school districts are running between 4 and 5% of students that are not in attendance, and that's really a difference from last year across the state, 4 to 5%. So if you magnify that and look at that out of 5.4 million students, that's about 216,000 students across our state of Texas are not in attendance that were in attendance last year. So I think that provides a couple of challenges and hurdles for us as a state and certainly local in our own San Angelo ISD. The first is a workforce issue. So across the state of Texas, we need to make certain that we recover 216,000 students. Here locally in San Angelo, where we live and reside, we also need to make sure we recover our students as well to find out, again, as Mr. Lehman indicated, about over 500 students. So that is certainly our task at hand, is to recover our students and get them in school learning. This is a direct correlation to COVID-19. So I would like to provide a COVID-19 update for our district. And for those of you that viewed the press conference Friday, this basically will be a recap of our joint press conference we had with our city, our county, ASU, Goodfellow, Howard College, that we conducted on Friday. As we mentioned on Friday, San Angelo ISD, first I want to thank our families. The families in San Angelo ISD have done a magnificent job of following protocols, utilizing safety measures to help us mitigate the spread of the virus. So first I want to applaud all of our families. Of those in attendance, 98% of our COVID-19, the quarantine or positive students and staff, 98% is happening due to community spread, and when it's contact traced, it is happening outside our school system. It is happening outside of our campuses. It is happening outside of our facilities. So 98% of our quarantined or COVID students and staff is occurring via community spread, and that is outside of our school system. So what that indicates is that our families, our classroom teachers, our principals, our maintenance and operations crews are doing a wonderful job of sanitizing facilities and following our procedures and protocols to keep everyone safe. So again, thank you for that. If you look at our student population, currently we only have about 1.5% of students that are quarantined or positive. So roughly out of the 14,000 that are in attendance, that's in person and virtual, so out of about those 14,000, we only have 1.5% or about 217 students that are quarantined or positive out of that 14,000. So that shows us that we can have in-person school with a virtual component. Again, the majority of our students, approximately 11,500 students, 12,000 students, are participating in in-person, face-to-face education. So that tells us that we would be able to continue this based on that rate. So we are pleased with the minimal rate of students that are that are getting positive quarantined because it is outside of the school system. So we want to reiterate that. We've also had some efforts at mitigating the COVID spread and doing what we can as a school system to keep our kids in school. The first is with substitute teachers. As many of you know, typically Fridays in a public school system across our state is really challenging to get substitute teachers to fill our vacant positions. As you also may know, many of our high schools travel on Fridays as well to out-of-town games and district events. And so our percentage, the Friday before last, our percentage was at about a 57% fill rate for substitute teachers. That's problematic if we have roughly maybe 120 subs that are needed, and then we only have 65 subs that are filling those roles. So one of the responses that our district had is, and you may have seen on virtual Fridays for high school only, that's grades 9 through 12, virtual Fridays, we have initiated that for this Friday, November 20th, December 4th, and December 11th. So those 3 Fridays, we are piloting virtual Fridays for students in grades 9 through 12. The reasoning behind that is that will help push our substitute teachers. We know high school students are basically independent learners. There are not child care issues there with families. So this will allow us to push our substitute teachers down into the middle school and elementary level to hopefully keep our classrooms filled, because our goal, and we have every intent in SAISD to conduct in-person school as long as possible. So we want to do that in our great partnership with our local CDC. We want to continue to operate our school system as long as it is safe and keeping our staff and students well, but we know there is no replacement for that classroom teacher and in-person instruction. So we are hopeful that this new action will help mitigate our substitute issues as well. Dr. Gomez, do you also want to talk about the previously we had a consecutive day rule for substitutes, but would you like to talk about the compensation increase also? Again, to allow us to kind of get over the post-Halloween surge and our community's numbers indicate the same ratio of spike in COVID-19 cases and tested cases. So these efforts will help us kind of get over that Halloween surge. We fully anticipate that after the Thanksgiving holiday that we will again experience a surge. So I'm going to let Dr. Gomez talk about some of those efforts that we are making in human resources.
So effective December 1st, for any substitute that works 10 days or more a month, they will receive the long-term substitute pay according to their certifications. Currently, they receive that pay if they work 10 consecutive days, but this pay will go into effect beginning December 1st if they work 10 days or more a month to help us with the daily sub-fill rate. So we have sent that out to our substitutes and advertised that as well on our website. So if they're certified, it would be $140 a day. For non-certified, it'd be $110 a day to help us with the daily sub bill rate.
I fully anticipate that any school closure or micro closure will be the result of that we cannot fill staff positions. That's why it is imperative as a community that we come together, we follow safety procedures to keep our kids in school. We know that school is great for learning. In-person school is great for learning. We do have certainly some successful situations where kids are doing an incredible job virtually, but for the majority of students, that in-person classroom, teacher to student, face-to-face interaction is just paramount to academic success. So we do know that in-person is great for students in learning. It is certainly good for our families. Many of our students that are involved in the healthcare industry, that are medical professionals, that are first responders. So it is certainly helpful to those families by us keeping the schoolhouse doors open. And also, it is certainly good for our economy locally to keep workers employed and to keep our parents in their positions and jobs across our community. So this certainly is a triangulated effort by many entities to keep our kids safe. But again, I want to thank our community this evening for following our protocols in SAISD to keep the schoolhouse doors open and to keep our kids learning. So with that, Mr. Lehman, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Deloff. Any questions regarding that report? Thanks for that update, and certainly our board team feels real strongly about the best place for kids is in school, so we're doing everything we can to keep them there. Our next item on our reports is item C. We're going to get an update on academic progress from Dr. Ritter. Jana, thanks for being here, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lehman, Dr. Dutloff, and our esteemed members of the board. I'm presenting tonight actually in conjunction with Whitney Wood, who is our Executive Director of Communications. We're just really pleased tonight to announce a community-wide initiative that reflects the value that we place on comprehensive literacy in San Angelo ISD. A true comprehensive literacy program is one that incorporates both in-school literacy instruction along with family and community involvement in literacy activities and support. This initiative is called San Angelo Reads, and we are excited to share our district overview of this motivational program to promote reading across our community and throughout our school district. So I'm going to wait 1 minute and make sure that we have our presentation uploaded here and ready to go. Thank you. All right. So our objective with San Angelo Reads is to position San Angelo ISD as a leader in literacy and literacy innovation through a community-wide literacy initiative to promote and encourage reading and the future-ready learner profile attributes of collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking among our SAISD students and the San Angelo community. The impact of the literacy considerations, really our why behind what is this that we're trying to do, we wanted to really embrace the purpose of the things that we're doing in our schools that you've been so very supportive of, and how can we continue to have this spread across our city and really have a literacy focus across our city. We know that third grade is a critical milestone in a child's education during which they're expected to transition from learning how to read to reading to learn. Research indicates that reading below expected third grade levels is highly correlated to future academic challenges as well as dropout, incarceration, and poverty rates. Children who do not read on level by the end of grade 3 have only a 1 in 8 chance of ever catching up and are 4 times more likely to drop out of school. With this in mind, Our district has certainly targeted comprehensive literacy instruction with the components of guided reading, phonics instruction, and independent reading through a continuous cycle of improvement. With your great support that you have provided us across the district at all levels, with incredible reading-leveled libraries, independent reading libraries, and quite an investment in coaching our teachers in how to promote reading and carry out guided reading and reading instruction at all levels. As a result, we are seeing our young readers make strong gains. Our data so far, even this school year, indicate 92% of our elementary students are showing progress in reading just since the beginning of this school year. We look forward to tracking this even more closely. We're seeing incredible gains with our students based on our great focus that we have on literacy in our district. Some further impact of literacy considerations. We know that under-resourced children hear 30 million fewer words by age 3 than their more affluent peers. This is known as the 30 million word gap. And we know too that children and teenagers who read for pleasure on a daily or weekly basis score better on reading and writing tests than infrequent or non-readers. This is really the purpose of our strong focus on the independent reading component of the comprehensive literacy framework. We are committed to trying to build a love of reading for all of our students at all levels. So with this in mind, I'm going to let Whitney join us up here and talk about our marketing plan overview for San Angelo Reads.
Thank you, Dr. Ritter. We were so excited and thrilled when Dr. Ritter came to us about this community-wide initiative, and we can't wait to support it with promotion and really get the word out and build and instill that passion for literacy from our classrooms as well as community-wide. I'm going to give you just a really brief overview. We have a comprehensive marketing plan. This is just a little snapshot so you get an idea of some things that are coming up and so you can mark your calendar about some of the exciting support that we have. So, to start, just an overview of our marketing plan. Our strategy, our overall strategy, will be to showcase San Angelo ISD literacy programs as a differentiator to other districts and other educational alternatives, and create a culture of inspiring literacy at the district level that can be replicated at each campus and in the community. So tactically speaking, we will have 2 to 3 SISD literacy program features, including student, staff, and community celebration of reading events. So 2 to 3 times a month we'll do that. And our timeline is we're going to kick this off December 9th, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. And then we will run through end of May in 2021. And this also has the potential to be an annual program, but we would want to refresh it with some kind of theme if we do that. And if you see, we have this lovely logo that really supports that passion and instilling a passion for reading that Jack developed for us on the right. And it shows that it's San Angelo ISD is a big part of it, but it also goes across to our community because it's San Angelo Reads. So getting just a little bit of detail, we always want to leverage our existing communication vehicles. So we have our online, of course, we have our district website, so we'll do a carousel feature starting December 9th, and that'll run through March, and we'll update it to go to a landing page for SISD.org Reads, and then we'll have our bi-monthly features on that, and that'll be really great content and ways that we can showcase the wonderful things we're doing in our classrooms, from the guided reading and the wonderful ways that our teachers make it unique and instill that passion directly into our students. And it will also let us show some other unique things that we have, like our SORA program, where we can have our students access so many ebooks from our partnership with Tom Green County Libraries. So a lot of wonderful things going on in our schools that we can really showcase as part of this and support the San Angelo Reads. And we'll do this, of course, on social media and engage our partners and community supporters as well. And of course, we're always going to use our email blast when it makes sense to really promote and kick it off. So in conjunction with this, we will partner with their TV, radio, and print media partners. We have our weekly segment that Carl's on where we will feature this, but we will also look to do some wonderful morning shows and that sort of thing to really kick it off as part of our, when I get to the kickoff event, but other things where we have really big feature events, we'll go to them and partner with them. And we also really want to partner with our community supporters, and this includes like Tom Green County Library, United Way, even Tom Green County Lawyers Association, all of those kind of groups. We want to bring them together because we want to really make this a community-wide initiative to really get everybody around the importance of building literacy and a passion for it with our kiddos. So this is just kind of a brief overview, but one of the big things that we'll be doing is we will have a kickoff event. So mark your calendars for December 9th. That is going to be San Angelo Reads Day. The actual proclamation with the city and San Angelo Area Foundation will be tomorrow morning. And as part of that, we will invite the entire community to rally around the importance of literacy and instilling that passion with our kiddos. And because third grade is such a crucial age, we will be distributing these San Angelo A to Z books that are by a local author. Jana's got one right here. They'll all get their own free copy of this to our third graders, courtesy of a partnership with San Angelo Area Foundation. And so that'll be part of the San Angelo Reads Day. We also want to have each of our elementary campuses have a letter they're assigned and do kind of a read-along we're going to produce. So we'll share that on our social media. We really want to flood the entire city with San Angelo Reads that day and really kick it off well. We will work with our community partners. We expect to hopefully have some of them join in with us that day on I Support San Angelo Reads and have their own share that they'll be doing as part of that. So we'll be reaching out to each of you because I hope to have y'all involved in that as well. But we just wanted to kind of give you a brief overview of kind of some of the stuff that's coming down the pipeline. So mark your calendars and join us, and everybody grab a book and San Angelo Reads, and we'll get our kiddos excited about it. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions? Thanks, Whitney.
I have a quick question. I was wondering how, I'm assuming that the virtual students will be able to participate in this too. Is there a plan to kind of get them involved also, or I know it'll be primarily in the schools, but I'd love for the virtual kids to do it too.
Yes, we always want to include our virtual academy, and that's one of the great things about like the SORA program, where we have the program where they can actually get access to these ebooks directly to them. So we will have a feature that involves the virtual academy specifically. We do need to think as far as distribution on that piece. We're still working through that, especially because we're have a switch coming up. So we have to think about who's going to be here and who's going to be actually connecting virtually. But we are thinking through that piece. And as I said, we will be doing some interactive ways through our social media. So we'll have a hashtag that's going to be SISD Reads. But we're also going to be trying some new ways to really see if we can get some engagement from the public and from the kiddos. So hopefully we'll get some of those virtual academy kids participating in that way, and that we'll be able to highlight them too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. And we expect to have San Angelo moms involved too.
I'll say just a little bit more about that too. We also are part of this is that our students are going to be setting their own independent goals for reading, and so all of our students will be participating in this part of it. We're also going to have student mentors and ambassadors, and have our older students serving as mentors to our younger students and doing some connections and video reads and connections with them, Zooming, and just provide lots of opportunities so that our younger students see our older students as role models in reading, as well as our community members and our leaders in our community and our educators and our school board members, and just ways to encourage reading just across San Angelo. And we think it will be a really fun, exciting time. We're going to do some really great things with it and celebrate at every campus and at the district level, and have opportunities at each campus for them to acknowledge students who meet their goals and who are working toward their goals and increasing their levels of reading.
It might be kind of fun to have the school board members read their favorite book, like
Oh,
video,
yes.
reading their favorite book on social media. It'd be kind of fun.
Absolutely.
I already have my
absolutely.
favorite one picked out.
Great, yes, you be thinking. We definitely want that, and we think the more people that we have participating in this, the more exciting it's going to be for our kids. We think, what a great time. You know, you can even dress up as your favorite character and read your book, and yeah.
We'll have Amy take care of all of that for each one
Okay,
of us.
great idea. it'll be fun. It's a good time to celebrate reading in our city, and we think this will really help to bring some positive things during a difficult time with COVID and to try to connect our community and really focus on literacy. So we look forward to telling you more about this as we go. Thank you.
Thanks for that report. Thanks, Whitney, for your work on that, and thanks, Dr. Ritter, as well. And Amy. Thanks, Amy. Our next item is, that concludes the report section of our agenda. We have nothing to report on our partnership with Goodfellow other than the recognition that we had earlier today, this evening. Our consent items, do we have a motion to approve consent items A through E?
Motion to approve consent items A through E.
Second.
We have a motion from Dr. Kingman and a second from Mr. Parker to approve our consent items. Consent item A is to consider donations. Previously, we had that up on the board that showed that we'd received a donation. It's actually from Walmart Neighborhood Markets as opposed to just Walmart, but we recognized them at our last board meeting, so we appreciate that. Item B is to consider 2020-2021 authorized list of investment brokers or dealers that work with our district on our investments. Item C is to consider bid number 20-011. This is a contract for uniform services for district employees that wear uniforms. Item D is to consider bid number 20-009, which is maintenance, transportation, and miscellaneous supplies. And item E is to consider superintendent's recommendations for personnel, which I think we had one included in our board packet. So those are items on our consent agenda. I would remind those who are present here with us and also on our public access channel that all of these items were previously discussed at a previous board agenda workshop, which was last Monday. Any further comments or questions from our board team? Any public comment? If not, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed indicate by saying no. Our motion passes. Our next item is item 9, consider bills and accounts and financial statements for the month of October of 2020. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move for approval of bills, accounts, and financial statements for October 20.
So we have a motion from Mr. Dindal and a second from Mr. Parker to approve our bills, accounts, and financial statements for the month of October of 2020. Any questions or comments from our board team?
Mr. Lehman, just a note to those watching on Channel 4 and those in the audience that all of these reports were reviewed previously at our pre-agenda meeting last Monday, and all these reports can also be found online on our website, saisd.org.
Thanks, Mr. Dindal. Any public comment concerning agenda item 9? If not, all in favor of our motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed indicate by saying no. Our motion passes. Our next item is item 10, to consider our financial integrity rating, which is known as FIRST for the San Angelo Independent School District, and Dr. McFarland is going to review that with us. Thanks, George, for being here.
Yes, sir, Mr. Lehman, Dr. Detloff, members of the board. I can't wait to see what everybody's going to dress up as their favorite character when they get that reading in, but that's for later information there. So what I'm here to present to you tonight is the information regarding your first rating for the district. That is the Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas. It's an annual report for those of you in the audience and on the Zoom land. This is the equivalency on the financial end of how the district also gets rated in regard to its academic accountability. So the district gets an academic accountability rating, it also gets a financial accountability rating. So a little bit about that. The San Angelo Independent School District has received the official notification for the 2020 final school first rating. Every school district in Texas is evaluated as part of the state's financial accountability system known as School First, which stands again for the Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas. The Texas legislature created the system in 2001 to improve the management of school districts' financial resources and ensure just good overall fiscal management of taxpayers' money. School districts are required to hold and advertise a public hearing to report their financial accountability rating to parents and taxpayers. So this serves as this public hearing and public meeting where we present the report of the financial integrity rating system. The School First ratings are based upon an analysis of staff and student data that are reported in this particular one for the 2019 or 2018-2019 school year. So it's the 2020 district rating, but it's based off the 2018-2019 school year, so it lags about a year and a half behind as you get those. It looks at the 2018-2019 school year budgetary and actual financial data for the fiscal period that ended August 31st, 2019. And this is the 18th year in a row for San Angelo ISD to have received the highest ranking on the School First Financial Accountability System, which again, as I'd mentioned at our pre-agenda meeting last week, has nothing to do with me in the financial realm of the district. As I said, this accounts for district financial accountability from the year 2018 to 2019. Additionally, the district's 2019 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report earned a Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting Award from the Association of School Business Officials International. Do all the board members have their packet, their first packet? So, and one of the things I'll say to the public out there also is all the board members have a packet that we'll go through, and I won't go through just in a great detail. I will go through in more of a summary phase and then answer any questions in regard to it. But as far as the public goes, this information, again, will be published as of tomorrow on our financial transparency website on the district, so you can look at all the information there. So in explanation, there are 15 indicators on the first rating report, which actually, as we go to year 2021, they're actually moving that to 20 indicators or 21 indicators. But currently, based off the 18-19 school year, there were 15 indicators. The first 1 through 5 indicators are what are called critical indicators. And what that means is if you fail any of the first 5 indicators, they're kind of big, heavy oversight pieces of the financial integrity rating system. If you fail just one of those indicators, don't get one of them right, then you fail the financial integrity rating system overall. And one of them, for example, is very simplistic on did you get this reported to TEA in a timely manner by the due date. If you just miss getting that uploaded in the system that goes to TEA and reported in the time requested, you fail the financial integrity. So that part has nothing, obviously, to do with your financial management, but just your overall oversight of meeting deadlines and complying with issues there. Another one there in this one is, did you have an unmodified opinion rendered on this? And what that means is you want an external auditor to give you an unmodified opinion, meaning that if it was modified, that means that it was the opinion of the auditor after they had requested that you make modifications to the report. So an unmodified opinion means they've looked at it, they did not request that you make modifications to the financials in your report, and so they've looked at it and approved that. So you want an unmodified opinion too. And did you comply with payments in a timely manner, pay the debts and the obligations of liabilities that you owe in a timely manner? Did you make payments to the TRS system, teacher retirement system, in a timely manner, which is a requirement monthly to do so? And then the last indicator that's a critical indicator is basically dealing with your total assets to your total liabilities, your total net position. Did you have more in assets than you had to pay off in liabilities? If you are below that threshold, then obviously that's a fiscal management part there. So those are the first 5 indicators of which our district, again, scored a perfect score throughout the financial integrity rating system. Indicators 6 through 12 are what are called solvency indicators. In other words, this looks at your ability to pay one's debt is basically what solvency is. So those indicators deal with, did we have enough in our financial accounts to account for our debts and also have liquidity in our money that we were able to operate day-to-day operations without being in a bind there. So that's what indicators 6 through 12 look at. And they also indicate for you certain things that deal with your management of staffing. For example, one of those indicators deals with the school's administrative cost ratio, and that gives you a threshold that you've got to meet and how well you did on that. It looks at the measure of current assets to current liabilities. What was the ratio of long-term liabilities to total assets? Short-term liabilities. What was the debt service coverage ratio sufficient to meet required debt service? So again, these are solvency issues. Did I have enough in assets to cover the liabilities on hand and be able to carry on day-to-day operations and operate efficiently? And so those were indicators 6 through 12. And then indicators 13 through 15 basically deal with financial competency, which basically looks at good oversight for procedures to ensure efficient management of the money for the district. And those indicators, like I said, 13 through 15 deal with financial competency. Did we was the submission of the PEMS data accurate with as actually turned out in our financial actuals? Was it, did our internal or our external independent auditor determine that we were free of material weaknesses for how we handle money? Because material weaknesses can basically tell you that you don't have protections and procedures in place to get day-to-day money and financial operations, and to make sure that you can't identify fraudulent activity in your operational procedures. And the last one there is, did the school receive an adjusted repayment schedule for more than one fiscal year? In other words, we would have had to have owed a whole lot more than we had ability to pay back in one financial year, and essentially would have had to be on a payment plan. So that wasn't the case with that financial management piece. So those are the 15 indicators of which the district did well or perfect in, really. Is there any questions that I can answer for the board with regard to any of those indicators?
Any questions?
The other parts of this, the other thing that's required in this is that this report that you'll be able to look up online gives you certain disclosures. There's 6 disclosures at the district, and really 5, but there's 6 availabilities of disclosures the district has to make. As part of the public hearing, the rule describes requirements for 6 disclosures explained that are to be presented as appendices in the School First Financial Management Report. And the first disclosure basically deals with the superintendent's contract. Make that available, and that's public record, so that's available within this report also, and available to the public for viewing. The second disclosure there is identifies any reimbursements received by the superintendent and board members for the fiscal year of 2019. So in other words, this board, for example, along with the superintendent, are required to get a certain amount of continuing education credits and attend trainings and those things and conferences, and the district reimburses them for those expenses, and all of that's indicated here per board member what was spent on those type of activities. The third disclosure is outside compensation or fees that are received by the superintendent for professional consulting and our personal services for the fiscal year of 2019, or 2018 rather. And you just listened to that excellent presentation by Dr. Detloff on the COVID, and if he got any payment from the city in that conjunction of that meeting he had where he was presenting that information, we'd have to disclose that here. The fourth disclosure is gifts received by any of the executive officers, meaning Dr. Detloff, or any of the board members, and first-degree relatives, if any, in the fiscal year 2019, and those would be disclosed here. The fifth disclosure is any business transactions that occurred that the district agreed to with that may have involved any of the board members, and what that looked like. And so that's included in the packet. And like I said, it's really 5, but the 6th one says if there's any other information the Board of Trustees of the school district determines to be useful, you disclose that information. Ours has no other disclosures, so those 5 disclosures are given there. And that pretty much sums up what's all contained in the first report for the district for the 18-19 school year for our 2020 rating.
Thanks, Dr. McFarland. Any questions for him?
I just have a
Go ahead,
comment,
Dr.
Mr.
Detloff.
Lane. Well, first, Dr. McFarland, I just want to thank you for continuing the strong legacy by your predecessor, Dr. Jeff Bright, in establishing a fiscally conservative and responsible school system. So thank you for doing that, and I know that the ratings, again, in your tenure will also reflect a superior achievement and a letter grade of A. So we thank you for all your efforts. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank your department. As you know, they do an incredible job from comptroller all the way to our director in your department. They just do an incredible job of making sure that our financial situation just is very responsible from a community standpoint and from a fiscal standpoint. So thank you for all your work you do on that, and thank you for bringing this great news. And
Yes,
I feel
sir,
like
and
I'm
I'd just
looking
like
at
to-
three of you from this angle.
And I'd just like to reiterate what you had said. As I'd mentioned first, that has nothing, the rating here, as I said, deals with the 18-19 school year, which I was not a part of. However, the members of that team in our business department were and still are there, so they did a tremendous job with contributing to the results of that report.
Thanks, Dr. McFarland, and something we've been proud of as board members for 18 years, so we continue that excellence in that area. Our next item, that's just a report, so there's no board action on that. Our next item is to consider annual Title III program evaluation, and Ms. Diego is with us here today. I have a hard time speaking tonight.
Good evening. I will say I am super excited for the read-ins, as I was asked to be able to read books in Spanish to our students. So, Dr. McFarland, I won't know what I'm going to dress up as, but super excited to get to participate. So good evening, School Board and Dr. Detloff. I'd like to present you some information about SAISD's Language English Proficient Program, commonly known as LEP, and why this program is crucial to helping our students equitably achieve their hopes and dreams. Currently, we're serving 689 students. There are 416 in our secondary schools and 273 in our elementary schools. This year, we had 40 students that met the exit criteria and are considered first-year monitor students. In the past 3 years, the percentage of students in our program has remained consistent. In 2018, we had 4.73%. In 2019, we had 4.93%. And this year, we are currently at 4.88%. I would like to note that in conducting a due diligence research of compatible school districts across Texas and analyzing their respective language English proficient programs, a trending pattern of increased numbers of surrounding rural areas in the Concho Valley was observed, along with our local charter school. Although the main research objective was only to target larger districts, we must consider that SAISD's curtailed LEP population could be attributed to the LEP students attending surrounding rural schools that are predominantly in agriculture-based communities, rather than attending SAISD. There was a total of 240 students accounted for in all the rural areas, including the local charter school. We currently have 24 bilingual certified teachers, of which we are currently serving 9 in the bilingual capacity. At this time, we're considering contracting professional learning avenues for teachers that will prepare and assist them in obtaining the bilingual certification. We also have 337 English as a second language, commonly known as ESL certified teachers. We currently have 149 serving our students. Last year, we had 37 teachers receive their ESL certification. I would like to take this time to thank Dr. Gomez and their HR staff for recognizing the importance of the opportunity for our district, students and staff, and for providing the funds for the subs that enable our teachers to attend the ESL training provided by our Region 15. Dr. Gomez also provides the subs for the teachers for the day that they have to take the ESL supplemental test. Once the teachers pass the test, they are reimbursed for not only the amount paid for the test, but also the amount that is charged to be put on their SBEC certification. Dr. Gomez, I would like to thank you for your companion and culture of learning that provides a strong foundation for our LEP students to build their legacy upon. On behalf of our bilingual students, I'd like to thank the school board and SAISD for allowing us to start a bilingual program for both Glenmore and Bradford Elementary this year. As of today, we are serving 20 pre-K students and 17 kinder. The students in these programs have started reading fluently in Spanish and recognizing all letters and sounds. This is such an important first step to creating a strong foundation for reading and understanding their first language. The pre-K and kinder program is designed as a 90-10. That means that 90% is in Spanish and 10% is in English. Both parents and teachers have seen great gains for our children in the short months that we have been in school. We are looking forward to seeing our LEP and bilingual students flourish for years to come as they work towards the goals of becoming English proficient students. At this time, could I entertain any questions?
Any questions from anyone?
She answered the questions I asked her last week.
Yeah, we had some questions at our pre-agenda, so we appreciate you digging up some answers for those. And
No problem.
anybody else have any questions or otherwise, thanks for that report, Ms. Diego.
Thank you.
Our next item is item 12. Again, that's a report, so we don't have to take any board action on that. Item 12 is to consider initial selection of a name for Robert E. Lee Middle School. Oh, we do? Okay, thank you. So do we have a motion to approve our 2021 annual Title III evaluation? Thank you, it says that exactly. Any,
Move to approve the 2020-2021 annual Title III evaluation.
Second.
thanks, Mr. Parker. We have a motion from Mr. Parker and multiple seconds from Ms. Mizell Flint and Mr. Gallegos. Any further board comment? Thanks for your catch on that. Becky, any public comment? If not, all in favor of our motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, indicate by saying no. Our motion passes. Our next item is to consider initial selection of a name for the renaming of Robert E. Lee Middle School. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Detloff initially on this, so I'll turn it over to him.
Yes, sir. Mr. Lehman, members of the board, good evening again. Thank you for this opportunity. At our last regular board meeting on October 19th, action was taken to retire the name of Robert E. Lee Middle School after a 4-month extensive process to gather community input and thoroughly research the topic. Based on the action taken in October, our board team was provided over 120 names last week at our November 9th pre-agenda meeting. These names were submitted and nominated by our public as potential names to replace the name of Robert E. Lee Middle School. The list included geographical locations, regional flora and fauna, historical sites and figures, local heroes, community leaders, elected officials, and individuals that have helped shape the landscape of San Angelo to make it the place that we call home today. Once again, we have made additional copies of the names submitted available. They are located on the table at the entrance of the boardroom and also placed on each trustee's seat. As a reminder, these names were generated by our public, the majority of them submitted in the last 2 weeks as potential names. It is important to note that a couple of the names proposed may be controversial, but we wanted to honor the process, be inclusive, and include all names submitted. Over the course of the last week, our board team has had the opportunity to review the formalized list of over 120 potential names, and we'll hear input and public comment from our community this evening, then conduct a discussion on potential names. As CW local policy indicates, these approximate 120 recommendations will serve as an addendum and public record for this November 16th regular board meeting, as well as our December 14th regular board meeting. At our December 14th regular board meeting, a motion and final approval will be made. I also want to provide clarification on choosing a new mascot. A process to choose a new mascot will take place at the campus level in early January. It will heavily involve students and be directed by the middle school principal, Ms. Amy Lemaster. Mrs. Amy Lemaster and her students will provide 2 to 3 names to our leadership team to evaluate, and if approved, will go back to the student body to finalize the choice. Also, as indicated last week, I do want to recognize that we are in contact with Howard Taylor, the director of San Angelo Fine Arts Museum, to help us properly and historically chronicle the history of the naming of Robert E. Lee Middle School and any transition that may take place. We feel that that would be appropriate to chronicle this important history and have his skill set to develop an area in the current library to showcase this transition and the history and reasoning behind any potential change. At this time, I will, Mr. Lehman, turn it back to you and our board for public comment or any board discussion.
Thanks, Dr. Detloff, for that update. And the way we're going to handle this tonight, if it's okay with the rest of our board team, is we're going to go ahead and take public comment first, and then I'll ask the board if they've got any additional comments that they'd like to make, and we'll continue this process. Our board policy states that, the superintendent shall review nominations, which he's done, placing recommendations on our agenda, which he's done, and then the board shall select a name at the second meeting. So this is the first regular meeting that we as a board team have officially considered this, although we've had public comment on it for, as Dr. Detloff mentioned, for in excess of 4 months. So we'll move forward with that. So I've got a list of names. I'll remind everybody up front that if you can, try to limit your comments to 5 minutes. I'll try not to be rude if I interrupt you, but I'll make sure that I'll ask you to close your comments as quickly as possible once you get past 5 minutes. And I've only got 4 people on the list, so there might be others that have arrived here after our board meeting started, and I'll be sure and ask if there's anyone else wishing to make comments before I ask for our board team comments. So first on our list is Clemente Reed Jr., is that right? Yes, sir, come forward. Thank you so much for being here, Mr. Reed, and for your patience.
Good afternoon, board members, Mr. President, Superintendent. I'm not here to represent anyone. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Butler Owens family. Just help me through this. At the age of 14, I met Ms. Owens. I was a dropout. She invited me into her home. And she told me the only way you'll be able to stay here, either you have a high school diploma or a GED. Neither of those I had. And I asked her, since I don't have those, do I have to go? She told me no. There's a school building down there off of Knickerbocker somewhere, the school building that give GED classes. I want you to go down there. I think at the time it was $5 a test. Gave me the $35. Went down and passed 4 tests. Messed up on 1. Ran back home and I told her, I said, do I have to go? I didn't pass all of the tests. She said, no, baby. You got another chance. You stay right here. Study for that test. I went on and passed that test. What I'm speaking about is a person that motivated me through my career. At the age of 14, I didn't have nowhere to go. My mom had passed away. She had already had 3 people that she had brought into her home. If you was hungry, she fed you. If you need somewhere to sleep, she had a pillow. Y'all know the name as well as I do. Mary Owens. 35 years at the SIDA, San Angelo Independent School District. Another 25 years of volunteering. At $140 an hour would have been nice for her. I'm gonna let her know that next time I pray and tell her about it. But there's some things that I just want to share with y'all as a person. It's this woman, this powerful woman. She left her footprints all over this city. I don't care where you go and who you speak to. You can be in the supermarkets, no matter where you at. If you use the word or say the word Mary Owens, no matter what race, creed, or color, they're going to turn around and say, I know her. The community turned out in groves. The church that she attended was so small, we had to have it at the First Baptist Church downtown. That was too small. This is the type of trailblazer that she was. Let me share some things with you. In the year of 1983, she received the honorary life membership from the Texas PTA. 1984, she was given the award for the first black sheer female college graduate. 1985, she received We Are the World for the first black teacher of the best. 1990, she received the Appreciation Award for her community activism and the things that she did in this community. I see you guys pass out appreciations. There's only one thing that she wants you to do to appreciate her, is to let her know that she was appreciated. In 1990, the Appreciation Award of 35 years of service to the children of San Angelo and the Advocacy Award that she worked with the San Angelo Independent School. She received the following physical education teacher award. This is in the community. Also, she received the caretaker of the community award for appreciation. They gave her that. 1997 of the Hospice of San Angelo Appreciation Award. In the year of 2000, 25 years of service for the Delta Kappa Gamma Society of International Award. 2001, the Concho Valley Retired and Senior Volunteer Program. It's called the World of Thanks. 2002, she received the award from Rick Perry for her service for working with the children of the Tom Green County. 2005, the President Volunteer Service Award, a trailblazer. In 2014, she received the proclamation of on her 80th birthday from the mayor, Mayor Morrison. And we as a family, we gave her an Academy Award because she had so many hats. She had so many faces. There was never a no when it came to her. No matter who you were, it was never a no. I just want to say to you, members of this board, take that in consideration. In her eyes, there was no big I and no little you. We was all of the same. She was a part of that rainbow. If you ever noticed, the rainbow don't have a dark spot up in there. But her color of her heart was impeccable, indescribable. She didn't care who you were. She left footprints. She left fingerprints. She represented the San Angelo Independent School District until her death. I saw nights and she worked from 11 at night to 7 in the morning. And I'd be there, Mom, where you going? They called me over at Robert E. Lee, I gotta go. After working 8 hours at night, she volunteered after she left one job. She loved her schoolwork. She loved her children. She loved her community most of all.
Mr. Reed, could you wrap up your comments, please, sir?
Anything else would be uncivilized. The thing I'm saying to you, board members, please, and I pray to take that in consideration. And I appreciate this time, and may God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate you being here this evening. Next up is Ms. Casper, Mary Casper. Thank you for being here, Ms. Casper.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm think I'm a little bit behind the times because I finally thought of 3 names to submit to you. And they came to me today while I was cleaning horse manure, and that's one job that you don't need a brain for. You know, you just sit there and stand there and shovel and think. First name I came up with for the school is E Pluribus Unum. What could be more uniting than our national motto, which is one out of many? It's totally inclusive. Another one I thought of was Excelsior, ever upward, and basically urges a person to never quit. Should fill the bill of inspiration. And then I ran across a poem, Invictus, which translates as unconquerable or undefeated. It was written by William Ernest Henley, who suffered from tuberculosis at the age of 16 and had a leg removed. And he was told after he had the one leg removed that he was going to have to get the second one removed. But he decided, no, I'm going to go get a second opinion. So he went to Edinburgh, Scotland, and consulted with Joseph Lister. He was under his care for 20 months, had a number of operations on his leg, but they saved it. While he was recovering, he wrote the poem Invictus. And it's descriptive and filled with imagery regarding his thoughts on what he was going through. It's about willpower and strength in the face of adversity. It's about perseverance and fearlessness of his early life, facing this disease that back then would kill. Because if you got tuberculosis, you faced amputation or death. I'm not going to read the poem to you. I will give you the last 2 lines. But what he has said during his 20 months with Dr. Lister was that I have not winced nor cried aloud. And he alludes to the fact that each individual's destiny is under the jurisdiction of themselves, not at the mercy of any obstacles of their life or otherworldly powers. The last 2 lines of his poem are very well known. And this poem has inspired many people. Winston Churchill, Vietnam prisoners of war who passed the last 2 lines of the poem on toilet paper that was written with rat feces. The last 4 lines. It matters now how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. And I think that is what we want every single student at Lee and at every single school in SAISD to understand, that no matter what they face, it is up to them, and you will be giving them the tools to be the master of their fate and the captain of their souls. I have a handout here. I can give you each a copy of what I had written about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Casper. I appreciate that. If you'll give that to Becky, I'll make sure that she distributes that to the rest of us. Thank you for being here. We appreciate that. Next up is Ms. Spears. Shirley Spears. Ms. Spears, thanks for being here.
Thank you and good evening to the board chair and all board members and Superintendent Deathloff. Thank you for engaging the greater San Angelo community to provide recommendations for the renaming of Robert E. Lee Middle School. I am Shirley Spears, president of the San Angelo NAACP, Unit 6219. On behalf of our members, we fully support the renaming of Lee Middle School to Mary Frances Butler Owens Middle School. Mrs. Butler Owens served as an educator in this community for more than 60 years and was a beloved teacher, influencer, and community leader for students. She is thought of in high regard by every student who had an opportunity to be a part of the educational experience Mrs. Butler Owens offered. You have heard many accolades about Mrs. Butler Owens, and we want to reiterate that all of the positive remarks are true. This jewel was kind-hearted, disciplined, committed, and prepared to meet the challenges of producing good citizens from her position as a teacher, mentor, and friend. The Girl Scouts got it right last year when they named her as a Woman of Distinction posthumously soon after her passing. It was quite by accident, I think, that today the Pledge of Allegiance was offered by students of Glenmore Elementary. Glenmore is where Mrs. Butler started her teaching career in San Angelo and made history as the first black teacher at the segregated school. It is important also to mention the confidence that the community and school board officials had in her by including her in the discussions to create a plan to desegregate schools in San Angelo. She served alongside our founder of the local NAACP, another outstanding African-American man, Mr. L.A. Rabin. And today, we stand on their shoulders, ushering in a fresh possibility of naming a school in her honor. We have talked with her husband, Mr. Tony Owens, who is practicing social distancing and unable to be here today, but who is in full support of our petition and shared with us to simply go on, do what you think is right. He would be honored to have his late wife honored in such a memory in a long-lasting way in the field of education that she loved so much. A review of the rules regarding name changes lists 6 criteria and states that the name should fall within at least one of the criteria. We find that the renaming to Mrs. Butler Owens meets 3 of the required criteria. 1, a retired distinguished educator from the district who has given permission for consideration of naming or renaming a facility or portion of a facility in their name, and we have permission from her husband. 2, a deceased person who has a historical significance for the district, community, state, or nation. And 3, a person who has made substantial contributions to his or her field of endeavor or to society in general. We recognize that other recommendations will be made for your consideration. However, we believe we have made a wise choice in this request from our membership and citizens from across the city. It is our hope that you will consider naming the school in honor of a local educator, a woman who inspired multiple generations of students, and honor the significant history of a Black pioneering educator to uplift our students and restore pride and integrity to our local history and educational journey in San Angelo, Texas. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spears, for being here, and thanks for your comments. The final person I have that signed up is Della Favor. Ms. Favor, thank you so much for being here. And Della is correct, right? Okay.
Hello, I am here to ask you to consider the renaming of Robert Lee Middle School to Troy L. Gilbert. Last week, some of my family were here, Kay Gilbert, his mother, Rhonda Gilbert Jimerson, as well as Shane Jimerson. Troy was my cousin. He loved San Angelo. He met his wife here at ASU. The things that people talked to you about last week, you've heard about his sacrifice and the sacrifice that he made on November 27th, 2006. I'd like to talk a little bit about personally what he was like. When he deployed to Iraq in 2006, he had 5 children at home. In November, when he lost his life, he had a 9-year-old son. As the oldest, he had a set of twin baby girls who were 9 months old, and they never spent a Christmas with him. The rest of his children and his wife, his mother, his father, his sister, had no idea that the last Christmas they saw him would be their last. So I want to read to you the letters that were written by the commander of the unit that he saved. So the first one was written to his wife, and it reads, "I feel that it is important that you know what Troy did to save us from almost certain disaster on that day. My men and I are a part of a small special operations element that became outnumbered and outgunned in the Iraqi desert. The pending attack would have been absolutely disastrous for us. Troy, however, stopped that from happening. His amazing display of bravery and tenacity broke up the enemy factions and caused them to flee in panic. I have never met your husband, but I sensed the warrior spirit in him as he took the fight to the enemy. I sensed his strength of character as he put his life on the line in defense of others. I sensed his compassion for those who so desperately needed his help. My men and I will never forget the ultimate sacrifice your husband made on November 27th, and we will forever be in his debt." That same commander later sent a letter to be displayed at Luke Air Force Base. And it reads, "My heart is heavy with sadness as I write this. The thoughts and prayers of our unit are with you and Trojan's family during this time of grieving." Trojan is what Troy went by. Our entire ground assault force owes Major Gilbert an unpayable debt of gratitude for the actions that he took that day. Faced with a crisis situation, we were in dire need of air support to fend off an enemy that had us greatly outnumbered. Trojan responded, calm and collected. We were in a very vulnerable position on the ground and in great danger of having heavy casualties inflicted upon us. Instead of loitering at high altitudes, Trojan came down on the deck and made it very obvious to the enemy that he was gunning for them. They immediately broke their position and began to flee when he started his runs. During these actions, it was obvious to all of us on the ground that he was single-handedly breaking apart enemy forces. Simply put, Troy saved us from heavy casualties on 27 November. We are forever indebted to Trojan because of the actions he took, and none of us will forget his sacrifice. We will always be humbled with the knowledge that he gave his life in our defense. You can read the Time magazine article about Troy called "An American Hero Comes Home." When Troy's aircraft went down, Al-Qaeda enemies took his body, and it took 10 years for his remains to be returned to the United States. So as you can imagine, some of us have children here, a lot of us do, being that mama at home, getting the news that your babies, their daddy's not coming home. What a difficult thing. There's not a day that goes by that his presence is not missed. On the other hand, something else that you can read in the Time article is the radio man on the ground was the last person who ever spoke to Troy. And he said, "We had called our people, our command, and requested tank support, helicopter support, anything to help us because we were being overrun. Nobody would help us. They couldn't get in because it was too hot. You imagine being in that position and knowing we will die if something doesn't happen. And they are pleading for help. And they call, and one person shows up. And imagine being that guy who gets the call. How many times do we get a phone call and we know it's going to be bad news and we don't want to answer that call? He gets this call, and he doesn't delay. He doesn't ignore it. He knows he's got a wife at home. He knows he's got babies. And he goes, and he does what he has to do. And he could not do things the way he would have, nor he couldn't use bombs. He had to get close because civilians and friendly forces were present. The other thing I want to tell you is that his wife, Ginger, in her book, she details some of the things that he spoke about and some of the things that he emailed her about while he was in Iraq. One email in particular caught my attention because he talked about a young Iraqi girl who was abandoned at their base. She was injured, and she was left there as a casualty of war. And she did not die. She was injured. She had no family. They'd left her. So Troy emailed his wife and said, hey, there's this young girl here. Do you think we could adopt her and make her our sixth? Eventually, that young girl was reunited with her family. But just to show the heart that he had, it didn't matter to him who or where this little girl came from. And I just want to ask you all, when we're in crisis, who do we want next to us? We want someone like Troy, who's going to do the right thing. Who do we want to be? Who do we want to inspire our children to be? We want to be the one who does the right thing and takes the call. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Favor, for your comments. Appreciate you very much. Appreciate you being here. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am. When you get to the microphone, would you give us your name, please?
Good evening. My name is Michelle Grooms-Reed, and I'm here to read a letter that we received in from Lori Barton, principal of Fort Concho Elementary. Thank you so much for allowing me to come forward. Thank you, SAISD, for the opportunity for our community to be so actively involved in the process of renaming Lee Middle School. I feel that this process has exemplified SAISD's commitment to uniting us and help us begin healing as a community. I'm writing in support of the San Angelo NAACP's recommendation of renaming Lee Middle School after Mary Frances Butler Owens. I and my 5 brothers and sisters grew up in San Angelo and attended Glenmore Elementary, Edison Junior High, and graduated from Central High School. Ms. Butler was our PE teacher while we attended Glenmore Elementary, and we were blessed tremendously by her love and compassion. She, like most PE teachers, was our favorite. We kept in contact with Mrs. Butler throughout our lives, and as fate would have it, when I became principal at Fort Concho Elementary, Mrs. Butler, now Mrs. Owens, showed up one day to substitute. She still has this grace and compassion necessary to motivate and engage students of every age. We reminisced about the good old days, and that woman remembered every detail, good and best, left forgotten, about me and my siblings. Mrs. Butler epitomizes the characters, strength, love, and compassion of a true educator. She brought our little Glenmore community together when we weren't even aware it was apart. Mary Frances Butler Owens is a standard, all educators should hold themselves to. I am thrilled that her name is being considered for such a great honor. Respectfully, Lori Barton, Principal, Concho Elementary. Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you for your comments and thanks for being here. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am, please come forward and give us your name when you get to the microphone.
My name is Frances Hall. Good evening to Chairman Lehman, board members, and Superintendent Hall. The local NAACP has presented various remarks and comments regarding naming Lee Middle School to the late Mary Frances Butler Owens. I am proud to read a letter to you from one of her previous students from Glenmore Elementary to the San Angelo Board. It was brought to my attention that one of the possible new names for Lee Junior High would be Mrs. Mary Frances Butler Owens. I am honored to write a letter of recommendation for Mrs. Butler Owens, name to be considered. I first met Mrs. Butler at first grade at Glenmore Elementary School. She was my favorite teacher of all times. She was my PE teacher for 6 years, and at one point she was named PE Teacher of the Year. Miss Butler was one of the kindest women I have ever met. She was there for me when my dad left my mom. As for my family was falling apart in the 6th grade, Mrs. Butler was my soft place to land. Over the last 50 years, I have been blessed to run into Mrs. Butler at various events and was amazed at her energy and her zest for life. She always greeted me with a hug and a smile. Just being in her presence made me feel so warm and safe. Over her lifetime, she has influenced over 15,000 children in her career and even more through her involvement in Delta Kappa Gamma, the Children's Advocacy Center of Tom Green County, and Building Bridges of Hospice of San Angelo. She was a woman of the utmost integrity, courage, kindness, and faith. She was a role model for any child, educator, or citizen to emulate. Before her passing, I ran into her at an event at the library, and she shared the philosophy of teaching. She always knew the children she taught would be the professionals and leaders of tomorrow. Therefore, she treated them with respect and kindness. She said, just think about it. The children I teach will grow up and could someday become the doctor who has my life in their hands. Who would you want holding the knife? A friend or a past student with a grudge? This is wisdom for us all. Honoring her memory by naming Lee Middle School after her will demonstrate the power and impact of an educator and the importance of blooming where you are planted. We are all capable of great things, but life consists of showing us daily in the small things. Often we are so focused on people achieving grandiosity, we forget our greatest impact in life are the small and ordinary encounters we have with others. Perhaps honoring an essential worker, a loving and compassionate educator during the time when we are awakening to the importance of all people, we will inspire those who walk the halls of Lee Middle School to be their best daily and honor their teachers. This would actually bring something good out of all the chaos of 2020. Thank you for your consideration. Becky J. Bennis.
Thank you so much for those comments. Anyone else wishing to make comments? I hope not, because I need to call a recess so we can take a break. I'd hate to break this away from our board discussion, but I'm going to do that for like 5 minutes, and then we'll meet back. Okay, if we could, we'll go ahead and reconvene our meeting. And I wanted to lead this portion of our conversation, and then we'll ask any other board members. First and foremost, as part of our discussion this evening, if there's anybody that wants to add an additional name from our board team that isn't already on our list or hasn't been previously discussed, I would like to make sure that that's on our list of nominees. So y'all keep that in mind. As I went through the list, I saw a number of people that are, in my opinion, incredibly worthy of having a school named after them. And I'll begin, and my list is my own independent list, but Carol Santry, I know her personally. She was a fabulous teacher. Colonel Powell, Dr. Bonds, Elmer Kelton, Troy Gilbert, Corby Kennedy. We haven't heard much about Corby Kennedy, but he was a police officer that passed away in a horrific accident on Knickerbocker. Mary Frances Butler, Owens. Obviously, we've had a number of folks speak about her and also Mr. Gilbert. One that's particularly that kind of rings true with me is actually a guy that I ran against for school board the first time I ran was Reverend Floyd Crider, and he and I developed a really strong relationship. So there's a number of people on our list of 130 plus now that I think are very qualified. There's other names that I think have the opportunity to bring us together without there being a specific personality or person involved. Those would be something as simple as Concho Valley to others such as Legacy or Liberty, Lone Star. I'm particularly fond of Veterans Memorial Middle School. I think it honors our veterans in a way that perhaps our community hasn't done historically. So those are some that are certainly favorites from my list. And I know I've been maybe not as outspoken as some on our board, but I think it's difficult for me personally to choose from a number of highly qualified individuals. And so I guess kind of punting the ball rather than making a tough decision, to me, it makes sense for me personally for me to choose a name that represents our community and represents an opportunity for us to grow together as a community rather than choosing a particular name. But that would be my comments. And I don't have any others to add to the list. I really appreciate Ms. Casper and the list, the names that she added this evening. So we'll add those to our overall list and the work that she did on that. So, and thanks for sharing that with us. But I don't have any other comments unless, and I'll just turn it over to others that wish to speak at this time.
Okay, well, I just want to say that there are a list of amazing names, amazing people on here, and I just wanted to know one name that as growing up here in San Angelo, the name I heard of was Albert Tejerina, who was an Air Force pilot died in Vietnam. I remember hearing about his name from my sister went to school with him, well, my uncle went to school with him. And, you know, the same thing. It was going in on an insertion in Laos in, I think, 67 or 68, was shot down. Him and the other co-pilot, they died. But like I said, tons of names. This is the one that I noticed that they had submitted was Albert Tehiti in a middle school, and I remember hearing that name growing up. Another one, Mary Frances Owens, Butler. She was also my mentor, all from first grade to sixth grade. Wonderful woman. Another one on here that got my attention was, of course, Major Troy Lee Gilbert. I remember reading about him. So yes, there's a lot of names, a lot of choices, but you know, even like Lanny said, even like another one I like is just, you know, San Angelo Middle School. So I just want to say that it's we have just these wonderful names. You know, you go Google some of these names and you're just like, wow, I did not know that, especially local people here. So yes, so I'd like to thank everyone that submitted all of these names, all of them. So that's my comment on that.
Thanks, Gerard. Others?
I guess from my standpoint, it sure seems like if we were going to go with a person's name, although there are a lot of great names on here, the two names that have gotten the most support are Miss Owens and Major Troy Gilbert. And as far as public support, I wouldn't think of going after any other person's name, considering the support those have gotten. But I also echo the fact that whatever side people were on during this whole process, both sides agreed on not naming it after a person during the emails, and a lot of the letters we got during the process was, whatever you choose, don't screw it up again, you know, or whatever they, you know, either side said, you know, don't choose another name. And so that rings with me as well, just because there are some names here that of, you know, geographic, whether it's Concho Valley or Veterans Memorial or Lone Star, that are names that still mean a lot to the community, but are not necessarily a person's name.
Thanks, Dr. Keeman. Mr. Parker, Ms. Monsell Flint, Bill, any questions?
I did so much talking last time, I was going to try not to say.
Well, put a time limit on you this time.
I want to thank the persons that have come here to speak for Major Troy L. Gilbert, his family and friends, and also those who have come to speak for Mary Frances Owens. That was, I know she means a lot to you guys, and I can tell we really couldn't go wrong with persons. That both of those are exceptional and extraordinary individuals, and I didn't know either name all that well, but I'm proud to know that both of are from San Angelo and from our San Angelo system. I agree with Lanny and others. We have some exceptional names on our list that I've have tried to study and learn more about. Gerard mentioned one when he was talking about Albert Tiarina, but there's also a Sergeant Finest McCleary, who I'd heard about before from San Angelo, who won the highest award that our military gives, the Medal of Honor. He was for actions in Vietnam in 1968. So our list is filled with wonderful candidates, and many of you've mentioned some of those that have, you know, personally, just like I did, from Mr. Kreider and General Ronnie Hawkins and Carol Ann Bonds, Carol Santry, and others that again meet the criteria of exceptional and extraordinary. I did mention, and I really haven't changed my mind from last meeting, that I do think it would be better not to name the school, rename the school for an individual. And I'm still leaning that direction. Names that stood out on this list of that I'm going to be considering include Concho Valley, Legacy, Liberty, Lone Star, Sherwood Way. Several people had mentioned to me that. My neighbor Mary Casper named my favorite poem Invictus. I hadn't thought of that, so I will consider that. And names, really, it's more of a dream than thinking we could do it, but a name of United or Unity, I just wish that's just something I wish we can accomplish through this whole process. That'd be a great name for a middle school, but our country is so divided. I just would hope that someday we can be united or have unity. But we have a lot to think about. We've got another month. We'll hear more comment on this, and it gives us time to study. And but the main thing is that I've already said, I want to appreciate those that have come to speak, that you just care enough for our community, that you show up and you take your civic duty seriously, and you give us your thoughts so that we have all that to consider. So thank you again.
Thanks, Max. Ms. Mizell Flint, looks like she's ready to go.
I think I'm ready now. So I also wanted to thank you all for coming. I think this is my 8th year on the board, and there hasn't been as many people for any one issue the entire 8 years. So it's really been an honor to listen to all of your voices and hear all the different sides, and I've really loved being part of this process. So thank you all for all that you've done. So I also, like the other board members, I also, love so many of these people on this list. Troy Gilbert's family and friends, and Miss Butler Owens' family and friends. Your words were just so meaningful. And Miss Butler Owens has a little more meaning for me personally, because I'm an avid Girl Scout leader, and I was part of that ceremony where she was honored, and it was wonderful. But I also have many friends who were pushing for Mr. Gilbert too. So, and I think a lot of us are just kind of honoring the people that are on this list. And one other one that I would like to just mention is Airman First Class Elizabeth Jacobson. She was the first female killed in Iraqi freedom, and the first security forces airman killed since Vietnam. So I just thought she was worth mentioning. It was interesting reading her story when I was researching all these names. So one name that I came up with a couple of other people, just to add to the list because we don't have enough, I guess, was Trailblazer Middle School. I think that's what everybody is that we're talking about. They're all trailblazers in their own way. So I just wanted to mention that as one other possibility.
Thanks, Amy.
Obviously not to close, Mr. Lehman, but to add my comments. Young man Jason Poindexter's on that list. He actually played baseball for me when he was a small child growing up here in San Angelo, and eventually joined the Army and went off and gave his life for his country. So all these guys, all these people mentioned have certainly significance in different people's lives. Again, as we've spoken about earlier, not generic names, but some symbolic names like Lone Star, Veterans Memorial, Concho Valley are also interesting, and also Excelsior and Invictus were a couple of other names that came out this evening that certainly have tweaked my interest. So again, it'll be a thought process this month, and I guess we'll proceed to next month to see how it all falls out.
Thanks. Anybody else? I appreciate our board team and how they've handled this. I appreciate our community and the way that they've embraced this whole process. I think it's been something it's been edifying, I think, to everyone. And although as Amy mentioned, there's a lot of times that we as board members deal with a lot of really important issues. I wish the public was as involved in that as they have been in this, but I'm proud of the fact that they have been involved in this. And I think it's probably taught us, our board team, a lesson that the public does indeed have lots of and should have lots of input in decisions that we make. And I think as a board team and as a school district that the more we champion that type of behavior, the better off our school district will be. So I think that's a great opportunity and a reminder to all of us, as I think Max and Amy both mentioned. It's interesting to see how much civic responsibility our community has, and as we move forward and do the best to educate 14,000 plus kids, then the more input and encouragement we have from our community, then the easier that becomes. So I champion the process. I'm ready for it to be over. I think a lot of our board team is ready for it to be over. I'm excited about the programs that we have. One that was introduced tonight with talking about San Angelo Reads. We're doing some outstanding things that are helping our students today. And I think as we move forward, our board's going to continue to focus on those things. And I know Dr. Detloff and his team are going to do the same thing. So that process, we're almost to the end of that. We'll get to that in December. Again, I appreciate everyone being here. Certainly appreciate, as several board members mentioned, those that are in such strong support of Ms. Butler Owens and also Major Gilbert. I think it's rewarding for us to know that there's so many outstanding members of our community that are willing to stand up in a public forum and support those folks. So I appreciate everyone being here. That covers that agenda item this evening. Again, I appreciate everyone being here. Our process is that the board shall select a name at the second meeting. This is meeting one. It has to be a regular board meeting. I'd like to maybe rewrite some of our board policy following this, but our next meeting is scheduled, a pre-agenda board meeting is scheduled in December, and then following that meeting, our regular board meeting is when we'll have this vote. So we appreciate everyone being here. We have one other item on our agenda this evening, and then we have to go into closed session about some personnel issues, and Ms. Mizell Flint needs to recuse herself from this because she's an employee of the MHMR. So our agenda item is approve official appointment of nominees as recommended by the liaison representatives of the reappointment of the Board of Trustees for an unexpired term ending October 31st of 2022. And those members are all reappointed: Carrie Houston, Donald W. McKee, Sanjita Singh, and John Stokes. So all those are being reappointed with their term ending beginning November 1st of 2020 and extending through October 31st of 2022. So do we have a motion to approve the recommendations by the liaison representatives?
Move that we approve the nominees as recommended by the liaison representatives that Mr. Lehman just named.
Second.
Thanks. So we have a motion from Mr. Parker and a second from Mr. Dindal. Any further board comment or questions? Any public comment? If not, all in favor of our motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed indicate by saying no. Our motion passes. Our next, we're going to go into closed session, as I mentioned, in order to discuss personnel matters. We're able to do so under Texas Government Code 551, subchapters D and E. And this is, of that subchapters D and E, it's 551074. So we'll do that and then we'll return. Okay, we have dismissed from our closed session, and we're back in regular session. I will handle any announcements that we might have. I guess while we were in closed session, we took no official board vote, or nor did we participate in any official board conduct. Announcements: our Finance and Pre-Agenda Workshop is December 7th, and our regular board meeting is the 14th. If any board member has anything to put on our agenda for December, please let me know. Otherwise, and hearing no objection, we'll stand adjourned.